How you doing, everyone? My name is Ryan and this is Charlie, and welcome back to This Week in Boxing. A late edition today. We're filming on Monday due to commitments yesterday, but we're going to chop it up like we always do. Let's start with this week's fights.
There's a lot.
I don't know where to start.
Well, is there a lot of story? Not even a lot of story. There's just a lot to talk about with one particular fight.
I think there's a few. Right. Should we start with the smaller cuts? No, the less significant fights and move our way up?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do Sally Ryan versus Jesse McCaskill. Controversial draw. I watched the fight and McCaskill's fight's aggressive, but she's not technically smart. She's not technically smart.
She's not tidy.
She didn't win that fight.
She's not tidy. But you know, some people say it's what a judge wants to see. She's aggressive.
Yeah. It's
aggressive, but if you're a boxing like yourself, a boxing connoisseur, you don't give much
like
credit.
Yourself as well.
No, but I can. There's some fighters, and you know, we talk about people with punch power that maybe can't box. I don't want to name any names, but if you can appreciate aggression and endurance, maybe you can look at it differently. And, you know, some judges maybe haven't fought. You know, same as like a ref in a football game. So maybe they see something slightly different.
I don't want to be picky and act like I know or we know or us boxing fans know everything about boxing. But McCaskill seems to overthrow all of her shots. She overcommits to her shots. Like, you've got to have a bit of control of her shot. She misses a shot and her arm goes over here. She's all over the place. Like, yes, you want to punch through your opponent, but you got to keep your form. Yeah. And by not keeping her form, she's getting caught with other shots because she's missing so widely, it leaves openings. Like, I think you find it very, very hard to give her more than 2 or 3 rounds. If that.
I can't argue really, but as I said, we've seen it enough times now. Someone puts the work rate in. Yeah. Sometimes the judge sees that and gives them the, I don't want to say benefit of the doubt, but gives them maybe more rounds than someone who's looking at it more technically would. And sometimes we have the, you know, the value. I'm trying to make excuses here. I agree with you, but I'm trying to make excuses here. Maybe we have the value of having replays and so forth to be able to see that maybe a punch didn't quite connect, as you said, was overthrown. But maybe from an angle, a judge might see it and say, oh, they thought that connected more sweetly than it did. Now, I'm trying to find an excuse here, but technically...
Do you think she won?
No.
Here we go. She did not win. And, you know, it's one of those situations there, whereas, all right, it warrants a rematch because she didn't win, but I don't see the fight changing in any way, shape or form. So, like, yes, you want the rematch to get the titles and all the little unification, all the little bits and bobs, but it's going to be exactly the same fight. All right, then. Moving forward, I think we have a new contender at 140 pounds. Richardson Hitchens. Your face already. What, weren't you impressed by the performance?
Who was he fighting?
Sapida.
Yeah, who was he fighting?
All right, who's he fighting? All right.
No, Sapida a few years back, maybe, but Sapida now, I don't know. I do think, in all honesty, Matchroom are better at matchmaking than what we see on like the Zone and not the Zone, sorry, Boxer and
Frank Warren,
TNT, you know, Queenbury. I do think about. So they do have like what they've done with Richard Hitchin and what they do with. I don't know, we come to him, but like, you know, previously before the weekend, Conor Ben, I think they pick opponents at the right time. That's where I do think they excel. So they're good at making their fighters look good. So on paper, you look at the name and you think, look at who Sapida's fought, and you think, you know, it looks a bit sexy. It looks a bit sexy. Now, when you dig a bit deeper, did we expect Richard Hitchin not to win?
Okay. 25-ish, 17 or 18 and 0 now. That's a good, fresh, young contender. Yeah, and like I said, 140 right now is a good division, but it's not stacked. So getting people in there right now, especially young talent like this, I think it's a positive.
Yeah. But has he puts on weight, and he naturally will. We know what
Yeah,
he has to move into. And we'll really see if he's any good.
147 is a bit of a danger zone. All right then, let's go to the quick question. Anthony Yard came back on Saturday in a 2-round blowout.
Did he?
Yeah.
Did he come back?
I put on TikTok that I like Yard. I think he's a good fighter. He's proven his world class with the Kovalev fights and the Bertobia fights. Yeah. But between those fights, Frank doesn't match him well. He's matching with these guys that are so overwhelmed and underprepared for what they're going into.
I agree. On one hand, he says, he puts him up there and says the 2 world champions, and then there's him.
Yeah. And
we know the 2 world champions are, and we know we've seen he couldn't get close to one who's a power puncher, and the other one's a much better boxer. Yeah. We've seen that because of the level of opportunity that Bivens fought. So he says he's not quite there, but he's the next. Yeah. But then he matches him up against somebody out of the Queen's Arms. You know, so it's like it's like you one hand just saying one thing, the other, and then you see the top boys. What they say is, there's no point in me having a tune-up. Yeah. Maybe fight someone of some sort of stature, but for Anthony Yard, it's always okay for him to have a tune-up. Anyway, that's run over.
My thing about it is that it's not like what the 175 division is not stacked over in the UK. Yeah. It's not like the 175 is not stacked worldwide. There's fights there for him.
Called him out afterwards, but I agree with you. If you fought Bebetit, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And we're going to have a discussion. You will see this discussion soon in the video upcoming this week. Yeah.
You fought at that level, you would think you would come back and clean up domestically against Buatsi or, who's he fighting? I forgot the name. Aziz, someone like that. Yeah. You would think that would be his next fight. Come back domestically, but he didn't even bother doing that. But he said next, that's what he wants. So let's see.
All right then. Let's go with Conor Benn's return. Okay. First question: should the fight taken place?
I've got to be honest. It kind of took me by surprise. I didn't even know he was coming back until I don't know whether it went
the day before.
Went under the radar, like proper radar, like. I don't know, like they just got permission a couple of hours before he fought.
That's the way it seemed.
Yeah.
Do you think with the current ongoing issues, he should have been allowed to fight?
Something's going on behind the scenes. I wouldn't be surprised, and this is me just being like some sort of conspiracy theorist, but if he had some sort of unofficial ban, and they said that like you can't announce the fight until this date, I haven't looked at the date or the timelines, but it's weird. It's weird.
What they're saying is that the commission in Florida and Texas had to contact the British board, and they would go back and forth, say is he banned or is he not banned, and then once they got all the clearance and an additional VADA test,
they don't know what hope have we got. You know what I mean? What hope have we got? We don't know if he's clear, is he not clear? None of us. Well, I don't know. So
I tell you one thing for sure. In my opinion, what I saw on Saturday night means he does not beat Chris Eubank. If he struggles with a 154 pounder. And once he struggled, yes, he was landing shots. He won fair and square, but he had problems. Yeah. He had problems, and he got cut. Yeah, December may not be on the table.
Yeah. But he's I can't say inactivity is an opponent in itself, isn't it? So.
So getting active, getting the ring rust off, doing what you got to do
might help. So he's been inactive, and he's also got a lot of demons. Like there's a lot of question marks. We're sitting here today, and we don't even know if he's clear. Yeah. So he's doing all of that, getting back into the ring. I'm not surprised he had a bit of rust and he struggled, but again, it's levels. There's levels. You expect with all the hype attributed to his name, you would expect him to, like you say, blow out an opponent like that.
Like, boxing's all about weight classes, and 7 pounds means a lot. And he looked like a 147 guy in the ring. He didn't look like a 154 guy, let alone fighting Chris Eubank at 160, who's fought as high as 168. Yeah. It doesn't bode well for the Conor Benn story moving forward.
Nah, maybe if you can't eat as many eggs as well, that might affect the weight. Sorry.
All right then. Let's go to what you want to talk about. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. It's just it is the topic, and I think if anyone says let's talk about last weekend's boxing, you can't avoid talking about what we witnessed. Yeah, and you know we talked about it last week. I talked about my heart ruling my mind, and boy, I needed to go and get an operation of my heart.
I did mention, we spoke off camera prior to the fight, and I mentioned in the video weeks ago talking about the fight, so that this whole thing about coming in big will just make you slow because you're not fast in the first place. What's the Zhang phrase? Chat shit, get zanged? Jesus Christ.
Well,
Unfortunately, Joyce got zanged.
yeah, well, I don't think Jesus helped Joyce, but wow, it's I don't know what to say. I mean, we talked about learning lessons, and I don't know what he learned. I don't know, and I saw a tweet afterwards, or I saw a comment from Chris Eubank, and he gave him credit for going back in the ring after a defeat.
Yeah.
And I know I'm kind of for the tangent here slightly, but that obviously affected the first fight. He obviously wasn't ready for the second one. I'm not saying that would have made any difference in terms of the result, but he offered up nothing.
Yeah.
He offered up like I'm looking for some comfort, but he offered up nothing, and I don't know how he comes back from that.
He doesn't come back for me. It sounds really bad. He went from being the juggernaut, piece of iron, you can't dent him, to being dented. Like,
dented.
It wasn't like he got back up. No, he got up, but it was done.
He got dented in the first fight.
Yeah.
He got dented. You can't even say he got dented in this fight. He got
the reputation of being
smashed.
Yeah, the reputation's gone. He didn't win. In my opinion, he didn't win 1 second of that fight. He was going backwards. He was scared to commit.
And he started off doing this little shuffly, jab, like he was trying to fight like you say, he was trying to fight like a lighter-weight fighter, but in slow motion.
Yeah.
And it didn't make no sense. It didn't make no sense. It's like he looked, I don't know, and even when he got clipped the first time, it's like then you think like, I've got to throw the kitchen sink out. You know,
I don't get, again, today's going to be a controversial week because I'm saying stuff and I'm not trying to be critical. Genetics is genetics. You can't change if you're bigger or you're smaller of what you are. Zhang is naturally the bigger guy. He was the big guy in the first fight, and Joyce put on 2 stone, and he was still the smaller guy in the ring. So what's he gonna do? Coming up, put another 2 stone, another 5 stone. Charlie, I'm bigger than you. Yeah. If you put on 3 stone, I'm still gonna be bigger than you because it's not your natural weight.
yeah, but what he's
It's genetically he's not.
No, but he lost weight for the last fight. So probably what he was trying to do is put the weight back on. So I know what you're saying,
Yeah.
but so it kind of made sense to me in my mind. Like I said, I'm trying to find some sort of before the fight. I'm trying to find some sort of comfort.
Yeah.
Trying to find a way he can make the first act turn the tables on the first act up. You know, and like they said, it was repeat or redemption. And if you looked for a way you could find that, and if you put the weight back on and reverted to type, like you say, he was the juggernaut. You know, we used to call him absorbing man.
Yeah,
he used to take a beating and still find a way and walk down people. So I thought maybe if you put on the weight, so I'm looking for some sort of crumb of comfort. I thought maybe he could revert back to how he was, but I don't know what I saw. I don't know. I saw like he came out and he was doing his jerky, jab, like he was trying to fight. Like I don't know, like he thought it was Ali or something in slow motion. And then the first time the guy hit him, and you could see Zhang was looking to hurt him. Yeah. The first time he hit him, you could see it was all over.
I said about the first fight, there was nothing Joyce done in those first 6 rounds that troubled Zhang. The speed, the lack of speed, the lack of footwork, the lack of head movement, the lack of power in his punches. Zhang was in his comfort zone in the first match, and apparently he only trained to get better in the rematch. He hired, with the extra money, most probably from a big fight, he hired a strength and conditioning coach. He was in camp a week after the last fight. He's been preparing, saying, well, I already beat this guy. He's going to change and be better, so I'm going to be better.
You can't underestimate the confidence, isn't it?
No, you can't.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another thing as well, which we realised in the Hergovich fight, but we realised and stamped on it this week. Zhang's ring IQ highly underrated.
Yeah.
After Joyce was circling to
He
avoid,
set him up.
thank you, you saw it as well. Yeah, it's very, very underrated. Don't be fooled by those little shuffly moves he's doing.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he's throwing a hook and he first throws a punch and he stops and wait, but it's not going to land. He just kind of pulls it back again and then moves you around. He's very,
he was looking,
very
you could
intelligent.
see his eyes. And
Yeah.
he might, from again, we don't know. He's not sitting here, but from what I saw is he looked like he was looking to take him out.
Yeah.
To me, you could see like the way he was fighting. He was being very patient, and he was setting little traps. And it looked like he was looking from early on to take him out. It's like he knew he could take him out.
Yeah.
And
So I'll tell you another thing as well, what I was telling as well, is that normally when you knock someone down, you go to the neutral corner.
yeah.
When Zhang knocked him down, Zhang knew it was over. He knew he landed clean. He knew
Yeah.
the juggernaut who can't be cracked,
Yeah.
I just hit him so clean,
He was spooling
he
around.
knows it's over.
It's kind of like that though, right?
Yeah.
He was spooling around. He was gone. I think
Yeah.
we all knew it was over. But yeah, it does, because you can start the whole, you know, the simulations and theoretical battles and rankings and scenarios, because you look at that and you think now, how good's Herkovich?
Yeah.
We don't really know, because we thought Zhang probably won that fight, but it was close. So if Zhang can do that to what we thought was a decent contender, how good is Herkovich? So if Herkovich fights Usyk, that will be interesting. Whoever Zhang fights next will be interesting. So I think the credibility of both fighters in a strange way has risen.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
I think Zhang's firmly solidified his spot as no worse than the 5th best heavyweight in the world. And you can make an argument he could be number 4 or number 3, depending how you see where Joshua is. Wilder's being inactive, so even though you say Wilder's got the power, you're not fighting. So you could really make an argument that you've got Fury, Usyk, as the top 1 or 2, and Zhang could be as high as number 3. I think possibly 4, possibly 5, but it could be because the other guys are not really fighting, or they're fighting lower opposition right now.
And they're big boys, so these you know, the likes you say Zhang, they're going to give people problems because of their size, their natural size. So,
and they've got the amateur background as well.
So it'll be interesting. Hopefully we get to see.
Yeah. All right. Before we go on,
Leave it alone.
all right then, let's go to the news this week. Last week, I think it was on Thursday or Friday, the BBC, the Channel 4, done a documentary on the British Board of Boxing over allegations of racism within the board. It was based on 3 stories, and that they highlighted. One was an Asian female boxer, and one was 2 black referees. One of them being Hines and Ian John Lewis. Obviously, the race question affects sports, not just boxing.
So I know it's a serious subject.
Yeah, it's a serious subject, and the race. Let's be fair. We all know racism's there in all walks of life. But I think it's slightly different for boxing, where I think the British Boxing Board is not really a government or a board that has oversight or jurisdiction fundamentally like in the government, if you know what I mean. And the reason why I say we're punching that where football has FIFA or UEFA or whatever, it has like a governing board all over the place, where if you do something, you're held accountable.
Yeah. So you UEFA,
In boxing, you could get banned by the British board or get your license taken away, then go get a Luxembourg license and then still fight in the UK. It doesn't have the same type of power. And the point I'm making is that if there was racism in the board, that's why it can happen, because it doesn't have that oversight looking at things.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
It kind of makes sense, but you can have it doesn't have a over, like you say, like an over. Who governs the British Board of Control? So there's more scope for them to go rogue, or there could be more wrongdoing within that organ, because there's no one policing what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you have to take any allegation seriously. So I'd like to think that if there's an allegation put towards the British board, that someone's investigating and looking into it. So there's a couple of stories, like you said, there's 3 stories. A couple of them were kind of not unexpected, but you listen to and try and find out the background to, but Ian John Lewis.
Yeah, Ian John Lewis.
I would say, just providing another opinion is, after that fight, I would have called for him to be sacked. Yeah, I'm not saying the other gentleman shouldn't have been.
Yeah,
but I would have called for him to be sacked. And there's been other fights where we've kind of cringed.
With Ian John Lewis' performance.
With his performance, yeah. So sometimes people need to look at themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm not saying that there wasn't anything untoward and why did he get picked on and not someone else. But to me, just taking that as an example, something needed to be done with that scoring. Yeah, right. Something needs to be done. So I can explain. So sometimes you punish somebody, it's right to punish them, but it's not the wrongdoing is not in the punishment. The wrongdoing may be more in the fact you didn't punish someone else equally for what they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I can't remember exactly what was said, but I don't think they were wrong to punish him. They probably were wrong not to punish someone else equally for what they did.
All right. So let me touch on that. What you're saying. I've never been an Ian John Lewis fan. I've had a problem with him since he had the Shannon Briggs, Vitaly Klitschko fight.
Yeah, they showed a clip of that.
Yeah,
They showed that as well. Like I can't explain. The way they showed the clip was like that was one of his his greatest moments. Yeah, because it was a World Title fight. We watched that fight at your house. And that was a terrible referee. Man ended up in hospital.
Yeah, for weeks. I've never been a fan of Ian John Lewis, but I think Ian John Lewis is right in what he said. That particular fight, what they sanctioned him for, because they didn't sanction for his career, they didn't sanction for multiple issues, they sanctioned for that sole fight. You can't have two judges that scored it the wrong way, then only sanction one.
I agree.
And he's 100% right at that. So again, this is not a thing about you like or you don't like, it's about just being basically fair.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
No.
And again, the racism element, like I said, we're not dummies. There's racism in all sports, and I'm trying to say you can't get away from it. No, wherever you go, you can't get away from it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to say the board is not racist because, like I said, we don't know. But racism is everywhere. But you need to have a fair and consistent rules across the board. When you don't have fair and consistent rules across the board, that's what causes a problem in all walks of life.
Yeah. No, I can't argue with that. As I said, I don't know the detail. I haven't seen a report. I'm only listening to what was said in a few minutes of an interview. But all I'm saying, the only point I was putting across in terms of a bit of balance, I don't disagree with you at all in terms of fairness. That's what we all want in life. Yeah, so as I said, if you penalise one person, someone else has done exactly the same thing. And if it is exactly the same thing, they need to be penalised the same way. But sometimes you also need to accept that you didn't do right in the first place. That's all I was saying. Yeah.
Again, you guys know I'm not a general sports fan, so I don't know all the other bodies and boards within other sports. But if there was an issue in another sport, the other sport will have a department or a body that will investigate on their behalf.
Yeah, but
I don't believe that exists in boxing. Boxing is literally like the wild, wild west. Everyone said it for years. Know what I mean, you could do what you bloody want sometimes.
People would argue in other sports who have a bit like you maybe have a bit more infrastructure and a better hierarchy, and maybe there's maybe a slightly more accountability, but it depends on the individuals as well.
Yeah.
Like you say, if you've got wrong-uns in certain positions of power, you'll get wrong decisions.
Yeah.
So
you're right. You could have the right levels of management up to a certain level.
Yeah.
But if the top guy or the top woman is the wrong one, it's gonna fall apart sooner or later.
And you can have a lean structure, but if you have the right people in place, you can have a really good corporation or operation or whatever it may be. So it's just about people being good people making the right decisions, and maybe in this case it hasn't been. But then also people, as I said, need to be accountable for their own actions. Sometimes it's not about looking at the left or right. It's about for yourself saying, look, I'm be accountable. I'll do the right thing and see where that takes me in life. So. Yeah, I'm not saying what's wrong or right for anyone in those circumstances, but I was just trying to provide a bit of balance.
No. All right, then let's move on. I think this is a story that we will follow up in the future. I think there'll be something more.
We'll see how it comes.
All right, let's move on. Where we're gonna go? Rumor that Showtime may be coming out of domestic boxing and going to pay-per-view only.
They all are.
Eddie Hearn mentioned indirectly. Oh yeah,
They all are.
Eddie Hearn mentioned that recently in an interview. I think that's a massive knock for boxing in the whole, especially American boxing with HBO pulling out about 4 or 5 years ago.
But they're all pay-per-view. In a way, they're all pay-per-view, isn't it?
Because you're paying for a subscription.
Yeah, just like everyone's just like sniping it. Eddie will snipe, and then the next thing you know, he's putting something on pay-per-view. Then he's telling you, or pay £70 for 3 months, or £20 a month, or whatever. You know, they're all kind of pay-per-view. They're all kind of pay-per-view. So how are you going to get the fights?
So
how are you going to pay? I mean, I think now it's like
there's too much. Sometimes there's too much money in the sport that's demanding that it goes to pay-per-view when it's not a pay-per-view fight.
No, there is. To be fair, we've had like some of the pay-per-view fights in the US. They're big names, yeah, and we've had some fights here that we probably pay pay-per-view for. There's no belt. No, that doesn't have to be a belt. Let's be fair, but they're more like domestic dust-ups, and we don't pay pay-per-view.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think the US will make you pay pay-per-view price. I mean, I guess a lot of their fights are pay-per-view, like Mexico and whatever. But make you pay big money for a domestic dust-up. Probably like on Friday night boxing or whatever, Friday night fight.
Friday night fights, yeah.
Yeah. So we get that level, but because I don't know, like maybe we're just more fanatical.
Yeah.
We pay for domestic dust-ups. Yeah, we paid pay-per-view for Eubank and Smith. You know,
Smith, yeah.
That was for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. It's one of them.
Okay, so if they go out the sport, it affects obviously coverage. Just like when ITV went out the sport or BBC, it affects general coverage. So that hurts the sport in a whole. But you did add on to something a minute ago, which kind of does add on that. As sports fan and as TV and where we consume media has changed with streaming and XYZ, we're actually paying double on top of double on top of double. Whereas we pay our TV license, then you buy Sky, and if you have a domestic package, it doesn't include the sports or BT or TNT or Sky. Then you buy your subscription for TNT or Sky, and then on top of that, you have to buy a pay-per-view. Like, where does it actually stop?
You're right. You're right. It's like there's no. That's the thing. I think all sports will probably end up this way because of the money.
Yeah.
But it's very fragmented, and you end up paying, like you say, overpaying, and it doesn't stop. And there's different platforms. You know, sometimes you have to Google where's this fight being shown because you don't even know. It's not easy, but if you love boxing, that's what everyone exploits.
Yeah. It's for us fools that pays.
Yeah, you pay absolutely. And what you got to do is probably have a little bit of circuit and like one person's go to turn to pay, then the next one. Yeah. And then maybe do it that way. But you know, if you love boxing, we're going to end up paying some way to find the fight. Yeah. So I've got some quick fires for you, to be honest.
Oh, go ahead. I've got a couple more, but go ahead.
Yeah, I've got some quick fires. Just quickly. So you have Davis or his trainer. Javante Davis's trainer.
Yeah.
Saying that there's something big in the pipeline. Something big in the pipeline. That's what I kind of. So
I saw something this morning. This is Monday morning.
Calvin Ford.
Monday morning, saying that they're gonna announce Deontay Davis versus Keith Thurman at a catch weight of 145.
I'll watch that. Thurman will get beaten up, but I'll watch that.
I'm not too sure about that.
Listen, this man ain't fought. We said it before. I don't know how long this guy. No, he's had one fight. I don't know. I think I'm probably had 2 kids in the time he's had a fight.
Thurman's a career 147 guy, yeah, and got some pop. Javante looks like he's bursting at the seams at 135. Yeah, I think if he goes up in any more weight, it will compromise his athletic performance.
We'll see, innit? But that's one. That's one to watch, I would say.
No, they'll definitely watch it. They'll be interested.
If it happens, but they said something big.
I'll say it's a 50-50. Right now, I'm more 50-50s, and it's a Javante win.
Yeah, that's quite big. But
yeah, those are one of the fights where Javante's in a win-win situation. If he wins, you beat a bigger guy. If he loses, it's like, well, I'm too small. He rolled the dice.
He ain't fighting to lose. That boy don't.
No, I'm not saying he's fighting to lose. I'm just saying that it's one of the situations where You know.
He's picking his fights all day long. He ain't fighting to lose. I think he knows he'll win that one.
I mean, Floyd's picking his fights. You mean? Yeah.
And then what's the next one I had? Forget my chain of thought here.
That's why you need the list on your phone.
Right. Crawford.
Yeah.
Only wants to fight at 147.
So?
What do you mean so?
Did he just unify at 147? He's a champ.
Yeah, but...
So why should he go up or down?
Don't, dare to be great. They only want to fight 154.
Didn't he dare to be great when he jumped, when he unified?
But he's going to whoop this guy again.
Then jumped up.
He knows this guy going to take the fight at 147. He just wants to whoop him again.
Listen. The only fight at 154 worth Crawford's time is undisputed versus Charle. If Charle wins or loses against Canelo, there's no need for him to go up.
Okay.
There's no need for him to go up. Fellas, if we've got a video coming out this week, which is the second episode of Head of the Table, and you will see why Charlie in this video is all over this Spence scenario.
Well, I'm all over Spence now. I'm just saying.
You keep defending him.
I'm not defending him.
You
I'm
keep
saying
defending him.
The guy says he's too small for that weight. Then, if you want to beat him properly, fight him at his natural weight.
His natural weight is 147, where he's been fighting his whole career.
147, maybe 3 years ago, but he's put on weight now. He's got him.
You said on that video, episode 2 of Head of the Table, that if you signed the contract, it's your own fault. If Kell Brook went up to Golovkin, he signed the contract. It's down to him. Spence signed the contract to fight at 147.
And he did. And no one's moaning about the first fight.
He was a champion. He was a champion there. So
first fight's done.
It makes a difference.
First fight's done and over. That's fine. You're right. He signed the contract. He said, "Thank you for this opportunity." He did it. Got whooped. Now he's saying, "Oh, I'm not quite that weight." But there's a rematch. Let's have the rematch at the weight he is, and then let's see it.
But why don't you have the rematch where all the belts are contested, where the guy is come up in weight multiple times to be at?
He ain't got none anymore, innit? So he wants to have a rematch.
So Spencer's got no belts.
Yeah.
Coming off a loss.
But he gave.
Hold on. Has no belts. Coming off a loss, but he wants to dictate the terms of having the fight at 154.
Yeah, but he's giving him an opportunity.
With what bargaining power?
We'll leave this debate for another.
No, but what bargaining power?
He gave him the opportunity in the first place, so he just wants to give reciprocal.
They both had belts. They were both champions, and they were both considered £1 to £3 for pound.
Yeah, one had all like the belts. One had a belt,
and one was pound for pound top 3.
Yeah, he was, but he had a belt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Forget pound for pound.
One was multiple champions in multiple weights.
For the belts, you talking about belts there? He had a belt. He had all the belts and gave an opportunity at weight he's not. Anyway. My last one, because we'll be here all day arguing about it, you know we will. Benavidez and Andrade, who wins?
That's a good fight. Has it been agreed now?
I believe so. I saw something that said there was a date, so I believe so, but you're never too sure. Never too sure. I've seen that before, and it's not quite happened.
Demetrius Andrade is a very talented boxer. I used to watch him when he was on Friday Night Fights when he first was coming up with like under 10 fights. Liked him. Think he's really good fighter. However, he does seem to fight at one pace and likes to sit on the back foot and box nicely. Mm-hmm. Benavidez wants to bang.
He's a killer.
Yeah, and he wants to come in there, and I think youth and force will set the pace of that fight, and I go for Benavidez stoppage late.
I think so as well, to be fair. That's where we do agree.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good fight still.
No, very good fight. No, interesting fight. Like this type of fight, whereas Andre can make a big name for himself coming back in.
Yes, absolutely.
Know what I mean? Like again, he's a world champion already at 154. Mm-hmm. He tried to get the belt at 160, didn't go to plan. Or did he get a belt at 1? I can't remember. But again, he's one of those guys that's a talented guy, but never really seemed to fulfill his potential. Kind of in the sport, out the sport, in the sport, out the sport, inactive.
As a boxer, he's slick as they come.
Yeah.
It's just, can he that power?
Yeah.
That way, I'm not sure. Against somebody who, like you say, is in there to hurt. Yeah. So, good fight. Yeah. Very good fight. That was it from me. All right then. Couple quick bits before we wrap up the show. Dana White done a UFC card last weekend on the Mexican
Independence Day weekend or the Mexican holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And he said in the post-fight press conference, he is now going to counter-program boxing on those weekends. He doesn't care. Now, MMA and boxing still have separate audiences. Mm-hmm. You have an MMA audience and a boxing audience. And you do have a small amount that cross over. I myself watch the main MMA cards, you know what I mean? I like a good fight. But boxing is my passion. MMA is just a bit of a fad for me. Does that counter-programming hurt the sports and hurts the way the sports will develop?
No, I think it's always even so like on Cinco de Mayo where
Yeah.
he wants to put a card out.
So potentially you could have a Canelo card on in one hotel in Vegas and in another casino in Vegas you have a UFC card.
I don't think they'll do it at the same time.
It's happened before.
Yeah, but I don't think that makes sense.
Boxing promoters counter-program each other all the time.
They do, but they also try and do something with the time.
Start times.
Because it's stupid. Why would you? All you're doing is hurting your own pocket, doing things like that. So it makes sense to say like if you're having a fight, I don't know. If we look at UK time, like 4 a.m. in the morning for us, and I don't know what time that is in the US. So maybe 8, 9, 10 p.m. Whatever it is. You then have the UFC card maybe a couple of hours before, so that you bridge a bit of a gap. Then you can both optimize, so you can have a real night. You can watch some UFC, then you go into the boxing. It flows nicely, and even if you're in the UK, sometimes a bit of a gap between the 2 a.m., 4 a.m. fights. If you have a UFC card before that, it flows nicely. So why would you not do something like that? Maximize your revenue because you're not clashing with each other and taking 50% each. You can have 100% a piece of revenue and just not clash. Why would you clash? There's two separate entities, the UFC and boxing. Yeah. So to me, it would be stupid, and I think Dana White, although sometimes I think he's it isn't stupid because he's making money. He ain't gonna do that. I don't think so. But we'll see. Maybe he will.
All right then. Last bit for the show. Next week, Canelo versus Charle. Who you got?
Charle.
You got Charle?
Yeah.
Points? Stoppage?
I think he stops him.
You think he stops him?
I think Canelo. I like Canelo, and I think at 154, 147. He's 154. He those sort of weights. He's. I think he's near enough unstoppable. Yeah. But I think Charlo's bigger.
Yeah, he is bigger.
I think he's bigger, and I think depending on what the rehydration is and all that good stuff, I just think he's too big. And Charlo is. Both of them are similar in the way they try, but they're not quick. They weigh you down, but they're looking to punch with intent. Yeah. So when Charlo's been outdone, it's because he's been outdone by someone who's a bit slicker and quicker than him. Canelo at a more natural weight for him will be quicker. But ultimately, he's looking to hurt in the body. He's looking to hurt, and he might be able to. But I think because Charlo's bigger, they're looking to do, in my opinion, similar damage to each other. I think Charlo has the advantage. I might be wrong. Because again, he's not the most active of fighters, so he might have a bit of rust. But I just think he's too big when I look at them. Even when you're looking them up against each other, and he's got punch power. Yeah. So if he didn't have the power, Canelo goes up against bigger people. A lot of that, apart from maybe Kovalev, who does have power, and that was a terrible performance by Kovalev. If he, usually if there's a mismatch, you go with the bigger person with the punch power. Sorry, it's a long-winded explanation, but that's where
I'm going with Canelo on points. I think it'll be a close competitive fight up to the championship rounds, where Canelo, even though we know he's failed in the past, that experience will carry him through. I think Charlo could punch, yes, but at 154, Canelo's been in the ring with much bigger people and bigger punchers, including GGG, Lemieux at 160, Kovalev, you mentioned at 175, and a lot of the guys at 68. Not saying they're all killer punchers, but they're good punchers. I think the size element of Charlo will be less as an effect because Canelo's been in there before with guys like that and bigger. I don't think Charlo's out of the fight. I think he's in there with a solid shot to win. But I think that experience and being with bigger guys and stronger guys, I think fighting Charle, who is the undisputed at 154, Canelo's going to feel stronger.
I don't. Yeah, could be. But I do think, like throwing this in there, but I do think GGG beat him in his prime. I think
It was argumentative.
Yeah, I know.
It was argumentative. I think the first one we watched at your house, the first fight, I think we all thought GGG won before the decision. The second one we watched at mine, and we were all on the same side, thinking Canelo won that one.
Yeah.
It was close.
There's a big gap between the fights. Just want to throw that in there. There's a big gap between the fights.
All right then, that's it for this week in boxing. So please share, like, and subscribe, and we catch you next week.